Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Committee Reads. I am your host, KWCs, and with me today I have Grayshot, Harley, and Joe. And today we will be going over match 117, Megaguirus vs. Monster X by Kenneth James. Monster X descended from the sky from the famous volcano, landing gently near its top. Monster X had orders from his master. While having a kaiju destroy a city was fine, a volcanic eruption was very destructive in its own right, and more enjoyable to watch. He stood back and let loose an onslaught of powerful energy beams from his four eyes, blowing huge chunks of rock and debris from Mount St. Helens in all directions as he attempted to trigger the blast. Deep below, the shockwaves from the blast shook and ravaged the area. Years ago, the volcanic eruption had failed to awaken it, but Monster X's bombardment would do just that. A glowing red eye lit up, glimpsing out the ancient cavern with an unearthly screech. Monster X continued his assault until finally the earth began shaking. He stopped, awaiting the eruption, before realizing the shaking wasn't the volcano itself. Suddenly, the earth exploded outwards, a massive form erupting from the depths of the volcano for the first time in several million years. Megaguirus hovered in the air in front of Monster X, ready to reclaim what belonged to her after so long in hibernation below the earth's crust, and finding her first victim. She didn't care how long she'd been gone. Monster X was in her territory, and that was all that mattered, and Megaguirus would destroy any threat to her turf. On top of that, Monster X reeked of energy. The amount was tantalizing, and Megaguirus hungered for it after her long slumber. She screeched and dove at Monster X, jaws wide as she prepared to clamp her powerful maw down on his throat. Pass.
The controller watched from the mothership as Monster X roared in surprise, leaping out the fast kaiju's path. "A monster was sleeping in the volcano," he asked, surprised. Well, Earth has no shortage of these giant pests. It doesn't have the M-base like the others. So Monster X, he said, giving an evil smirk, "kill it." Monster X roared in response, more than happy to oblige his master's commands. He threw his arms out, letting loose his gravity beams at Megaguirus. However, the flying predator evaded nimbly, weaving the waves and dashing forward through the air, slamming her sharp wings into the Cosmic Terror's chest, toppling him to the ground hard. The space monster groaned, having no idea Megaguirus was that fast. He quickly got to his feet and slowly circled the ancient killer. Megaguirus doing the same. Megaguirus was the first to charge, flying straight at Monster X, claws ready to strike and tear his flesh. However, Monster X managed to catch her pincers and swung her around, slamming her to the ground. He swung around, bringing his whip-like tail into the side of Megaguirus' face, leaving a welt in her exoskeleton and earning a roar of pain. Ooh. He then prepared to fire his gravity rays, only for Megaguirus to swing her tail around and trip Monster X, knocking him to the ground and allowing her to take flight and return to her element. Monster X groaned, slowly returning to his feet as Megaguirus buzzed around him. Megaguirus watched her rival, waiting for the right moment to strike, a predator on the hunt. Monster X watched her closely, waiting, when suddenly he felt a scalding burn in his foot and jumped to the side, looking down to see molten lava begin pouring from the depths of the volcano. This, however, allowed Megaguirus to finally see her opening and shoot forward, swinging her tail up, aiming for Monster X's stomach. However, the space monster managed to turn back in time and leapt into the air, spinning her around and roundhouse kicking the prehistoric terror in the side of the head, sending her spiraling to the ground with a huge crash. Monster X took advantage and leapt on top of Megaguirus, raining blows into her face, each earning a sharp roar of pain. Megaguirus felt hot lava seep under his body and panicked, swinging her stinger up and digging into Monster X's back, drawing a spurt of blood and a roar of agony. Monster X jumped off before Megaguirus could siphon energy, but the Meganula Queen took flight once again, glad to be out of the lava. She flapped her wings at blinding speeds and took off so fast she was just a blur. Monster X found himself bombarded from every direction, staggering as supersonic strikes landed, Megaguirus zooming past him so quickly he barely caught sight of her. Finally, Megaguirus clamped her pincers down on Monster X's shoulders and flew up with her momentum, carrying him off into the air and dropping him several hundred feet to the base of Mount St. Helens. Monster X groaned.
Pass.
Pass.
Monster X groaned, looking up in pain, searching for Megaguirus. He noticed Megaguirus had stopped her high-speed assault, probably to conserve energy. He also noticed that the ground below him was starting to shake. This time he knew it was a sign of a volcano. Megaguirus, however, refused to seize her advantage and dove straight at the Cosmic Terror, intending to impale him on her stinger. However, the spaceborne kaiju waited for this to get close and let loose his gravity beams, blasting her and sending her crashing to the ground, screeching in pain. Monster X groaned and stood back up, charging over and slashing away at her face and chest, burning streaks of blood in the Ancient Queen's armor. Remembered the last time and quickly leapt out of the way as she attempted to sting him in the back again. He swiftly grabbed her tail before it could be lowered and swung around, slamming her hard into the side of the volcano. He leapt up and followed with a flying backhand, only to find his arm clenched in Megaguirus' crushing jaws. He roared and tried to free his arm, only for Megaguirus to fly up and continue to shake her head rapidly, trying to tear deeper into Monster X's arm. Monster felt his bony armor give way to Megaguirus' strong jaws and drove his claws into her right eye and tore it out. Holy crap. Megaguirus roaring in agony as blood spurted from her now missing eye. Monster X followed up by grabbing Megaguirus by the shoulders and throwing her. Megaguirus quickly caught herself in midair and took flight once again, intending to exact revenge for her destroyed eye. She saw Monster X prepare his gravity bolt and charged forwards, driving his stinger into her gut and earning a roar of agony. Megaguirus grabbed him by the arms with her pincers to hold them in place. Monster X roared out in pain as he felt his energy being drained into the giant insect queen's body and struggled. He attempted his beams, but discovered, to his horror, that Megaguirus' energy drain robbed him of his weapon for the time being. Megaguirus finally had her fill and retreated, Monster X quickly attempting his gravity rays to counterattack, only for the ancient killer to dodge and getting close. Much to Monster X's shock, he's having a lot of shocks today, he saw a yellow sphere of energy form before Megaguirus before she unleashed a blast of her own energy, sending him flying back and crashing hard to the ground, sending bits of his armor flying into the air. X regained his senses and let off a blast of gravity rays. Whatever. Didn't have time to dodge and rose her pincer up to defend her frail body from further damage, the limb taking the full fury of the attack on blowing the pincer off into burning bits of flesh. As Megaguirus roared in pain, Monster X sprang up and did a leaping spin, smashing his tail into the side of her head, continuing as he came down, driving his fist into the side of her jaw, toppling her hard to the ground. Monster X quickly pounced on her, grabbing her by the throat, trying to choke her. However, being an insect, Megaguirus didn't breathe through her mouth. Instead external openings on their body. Thus, the choking had little effect and she was able to counterattack, driving her pincer straight into Monster X's eye, earning herself a roar of agony from her opponent as she tore it out of his face, forcing him back. Megaguirus then looked up at the volcano and saw something frightening taking off at blinding speeds. Blinding.
What?
Monster X looked out in confusion. Why had Megaguirus left so suddenly? He sensed something behind him and swung around. Too late. Plastic flow from the eruption he himself had triggered washed down the mountain, slamming into him with great force. Pass.
Megaguirus watched from safety as Monster X was engulfed by the scalding hot current of rock, toxic gas, and ash. If he somehow survived such a fate, she'd be on him in the moment to finish the job. And sure enough, when the flow ended, Monster X still stood, badly burned to the point some of his bone armor plates flaked and fell off and wheezing on the toxic, burning hot gases that had near incinerated his lungs. Having adapted to the hot, poisonous gases of a volcano after living inside one for several million years, Megaguirus fearlessly dove down and put him out of his misery, stabbing the suffering monster in the chest with their stinger, forcing it deeper until it erupted out of his back in a shower of blood and gore. Not finished, Megaguirus, with Monster X impaled on her tail, lunged forward and tore out his throat. Megaguirus allowed the dying monster to fall limp, fall into the ground and die. She let out a victorious roar before dragging her kill off to find a safe place to eat it. The controller jumped around in fury, yelling at the top of his lungs, cursing out Megaguirus. Winner, Megaguirus.
Is that the most common ending? Is the as X just like throwing a tantrum at the end of a match? I think that has become
generally it's a lot of the time it tends to be X throwing a tantrum anytime he loses. So.
Honestly, the problem is because he didn't have access to his Kaiser Ghidorah form. X was really considered like the weakest of one of the weaker monsters for a really long time.
Oh yeah,
I mean technically, he has the Baggett effect. He's hyped up to be really strong, but he winds up losing, so it doesn't make him look strong.
Yeah, I would argue that he has probably some of the best armor in the KWC, having being able to tank a ton of damage, but he just can't dish it equally. And I think that's why everyone has him as this kind of tooth and claw melee. But he's kind of he's got stuff going. It's he's an athletic TNC fighter with a strong, solid beam attack to boot. But I think everyone just loved using him as a punching bag. It's just on the map. Right. It's just bad luck on his part. So until
I say it's also because he couldn't access Kaiser Ghidorah form, and everyone just thought that was obviously the superior version of it. And if they considered Monster X weaker because of that.
I guess.
Or is the stronger Monster X is the weaker form. Yeah. Even though Monster X handled Godzilla fine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That could have been the mentality.
Okay.
I would also say that Kaiser Ghidorah isn't always a necessity in regards to upgrading. Megaguirus, in this situation, I think the writing was a little wonky in regards to how the storytelling is. Megaguirus should really never take a hit in regards to if she does, it's actually to her detriment because she has armor and she's got plenty of she has armor and claws and all sorts of things, but really her speed is her greatest attribute.
I could totally.
She should never.
Physical attacks, I think she can take. Energy attacks, she should avoid, moth to a flame.
One blast from Godzilla's atomic grave was enough to take her down, for good.
Pretty much. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is her armor's only there for that extra just in case. Mm-hmm. Usually, it's always because very rarely did Godzilla ever hit her. It was very much either she actually let him do it by getting up close, or it was a surprise on her end, and the armor had to be there.
Yeah,
I think the only time she was surprised is when he body slammed her. She's like,
body and the tail.
The only two where she was actually oh god, oh no.
True. My point is, I wish there was a little bit more done with the speed and how much and how insane it is. Because she goes fast enough to technically leave an after images in the air. So that's the other thing with Megaguirus. I think in this situation, I can understand why she would win. I just think they just need a bit better detail when it came to her and her speed. Because it's a good match. I just think that it's a little wonky in its storytelling in regards to how it describes the battle and such.
I could see that. I could easily because it doesn't feel like it's taking full advantage of Megaguirus' speed. But it's just kind of writing it somewhat standard and normal. It's not bad, but it could have used more of the emphasis on the speed. That said, I did like the ending. So
yeah, the ending's cool. I would actually argue that for me, at least, if Monster X can survive Godzilla's beam in an asteroid impact, I'm pretty sure he could walk through lava no problem. But again, I would argue that Megaguirus would probably be the one that would actually be susceptible to that kind of thing. Not the other way around, with Megaguirus being immune and Monster X being crippled because of it.
Yeah.
Especially since he's a space monster, usually they don't really need the thing called oxygen. Mm-hmm. So hot gas is
Oxy what? Who needs it?
But no, yeah, that's my minor criticism aside.
Still, who's an insect?
Yeah, that also felt a little out of place. Just I wish they would have been better influenced into the battle. Monster X squeezed her neck, but she showed no sign of like losing her strength.
Yeah.
Or,
something a little more than just because he's an insect.
Right.
It's understandable. I get why that, because that's what ants do. Ants breathe, like, I know for a fact, ants breathe from their sides. So if you ever like dump water on them, they can actually drown because the water's around them.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. In regards to the match, it's still a good one. I just don't think. I think its flaws hold it back from being a great one.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I will say is great, though, is I do enjoy the banner. The banner's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's
a little simple, but still nice.
Yeah, nice simplicity, but it has it's a good I think it's a decent composition. So
yeah, definitely agree with that.
So, Harley, do you have any additional thoughts on the match, or?
Oh, I'm YouTube pretty much succinctly summarized everything, all the problems, all the strengths I had with it, basically.
All right. So, yeah, it's like a decent match that was kind of held back just a little bit. But with that said, this has been match 117, and we will see you guys next time for match 118. Till then, everyone.